Okay, everybody, welcome back to Set the Pipe. I am Sully. Today I'm here with CK. And then there's Bear. Today we have a very unique topic and a very unique guest, and I think everybody's going to enjoy this. Andrea Becker, welcome to Set the Pipe.
So glad
Thanks,
to have
guys. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Well, let me give everybody your bio real quick. Comes from Northern California, and she got her BA and MA from Sacramento State, and then got your PhD from the University of Tennessee, correct?
Correct.
Is that correct? Good. And today she is a professor of sports psychology and department chair of allied health sciences. And I'm going to get into the rest of your background throughout this interview. But basically how I know Andrea, not personally, but just through the volleyball world, is she was a part of UCLA men's volleyball staff. And we're not talking about a sidekick or just a professor. She was a part of the staff. And I know reading articles, John Spross said some high things about what Andrea did for him and as well as his team. John Hawks, who we had on here before, said the same thing. But she's been to Olympics. She's helped USA men's volleyball national team, Olympic team, through all the things that need to go through. And I'm going to give everybody a quote out there. And this is what Andrew told me. I don't do mental health. I do more of performance psychology. And I think that is just a thrilling topic right now that us three have talked about, but to now have the pinnacle of, as far as I'm concerned, the person that is doing that in our sport on our podcast. I think it's a really good gift for Set the Pipe, and I can't wait to get this started, boys.
Couldn't agree more. Like I'm excited to just dive into the weeds on what you do, because I think it's important to, especially athletes that we try to, talk to from every level, from the junior level all the way up to, we've had pros and, some of the best, greatest coaches of all time on here as well, is to talk about performing. And performing takes a lot, and it's not just athleticism and work, it's mental part of it. And so I'm excited to just hear what you've been able to do for volleyball and working for John and working at UCLA and for the USA team. So welcome to Set the Pipe. Thanks for taking the time to meet with us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Coley.
So, Andrea, can you take us back to how in the world did you and John Sproul even get hooked up from the get-go?
Oh, wow. Oh, this is a common question, and it's a pretty circuitous story. I was at the University of Tennessee doing my doctorate in sports psychology, and I heard that there was a group of professors on campus that met each week on Tuesday afternoons to discuss different research modalities. And they were professors from all different areas on campus. Some were from mathematics and statistics and nursing and psychology and all different topics you can imagine. And they came together. And so I decided that if I sat in on the group, I might learn about some research methodologies that I could apply to my own work. And so I attended the meeting.
That's cool. It's Clay, right?
Clay.
Clay. I'm giving him a tap
Can
back
you take
here.
a look at Clay real quick?
Clay.
So
give him a wave.
There you go, Clay.
Hey, there's Clay.
How you doing, bud?
So I went to the meeting for 2 years, and at some point there was a nursing professor who went to the meetings as well. And she turned to me and she said, Andrea, you come to these meetings each week and you just listen, you never say anything. And my response was, well, that's because you're doing homeland security and triage and test dummies. And I'm over here putting a wireless microphone on Pat Summit and video recording her coaching behaviors. And I felt like I should just sit and listen to people who are saving lives, while I was so fascinated with what makes a really great coach. And so she said, well, what do you do? And I told her that that's what I did. And she said, well, my son might be interested in your research. And would you meet with him? And I said, sure, I'll meet with him. And I thought maybe he was a local coach in Knoxville, Tennessee at the time. Yeah. And she said, okay, I'll set it up. so I went to breakfast at a Mimi's Cafe in Farragut, Tennessee, and this young man walks in, and he was wearing a UCI jacket. And I said, is that UC Irvine in California? And he said, yeah. And I said, that's weird. I'm from California. Your mom didn't mention that that's where you were coming from. I thought you were a local coach. And he said, no, I'm the head coach of the UC Irvine men's volleyball team. And so that is how we met.
Wow.
We met at a Mimi's Cafe in Farragut, Tennessee. We had breakfast. We talked coaching. And within the next 6 months, he was in his 5th year of coaching at UC Irvine, and they were in their first national championship run, and the Final Four was going to be at Ohio State. So I finished my doctorate in May. In the meantime, I got a job as an assistant professor at Cal State Fullerton.
Okay.
We stayed in touch because he was helping me find some participants for some research that I was doing. In those next 6 months, John was helping me find participants for some research I was doing. And we stayed in touch talking the psychology of coaching. In the meantime, I got a job at Cal State Fullerton as a professor of sports psychology, and his team was in the national championship run, the Final Four at Ohio State. And so he said, you should come and see the match. And so I finished my degree, had my job. I said, great, this sounds amazing. So I drove up there to Ohio State to watch him coach in his Final Four. And I was there to witness his first national championship, which was really, really a fun experience to be able to be there. And we developed a great friendship. And then I became a professor at Cal State Fullerton and was teaching introduction to kinesiology and sports psychology and the psychology of coaching. And in my 5th year there, I was walking to a class across campus, and John called me and he said, hey, Bex, my assistant coach has decided to take another job. It's a good opportunity for him. I'm pretty good at the X's and O's of volleyball. I'd really like to develop the mental side of the game in my coaching. Why don't you come and be my assistant coach? And the truth is, I said no. I said no.
Why?
And the reason why I said no is because I said, you want me, but that doesn't mean the guys want me. And you only get one full-time assistant coach, and I'm not a volleyball coach. So that's probably not the best option for your team. And he called me, gosh, I feel like it was every day for the next 2 weeks saying, did you talk to your department chair yet? Did you tell him you're going to do this job? He just talked me into coming to meet the team. So I said, I'll come meet the team. And so I came down to UC Irvine one day, and we were downstairs in this boiler room, a little tiny conference room. And I went around the room and I said to each guy, why are you here? Why are you here? Why are you here? Why are you here? And what I intended to hear going into that room was a lot of different answers. I thought I would hear that some guys were there for school, and some were there for volleyball, and some were there for the social aspect of it. And I really thought that I would hear some were there, their parents really wanted them to get a good degree. And every single guy, when I went around, said to win a national championship. And as a person who studies sport, who studies high-level performance, who wants to, understand the psychological qualities that lead to consistently performing at a high level, they inspired me. I thought, wow, if they're like, the number one thing in performing well as a team is having a team that is there for a unified purpose. It was already already established. I was walking into a room and they were telling me, we're here to win a national championship. Because when you're a sports psychology person, you're one tiny cog in the wheel. There's so many factors that go into winning, and
it's a big one though. I think it's a big one. And
It's a big one.
I want to say one thing for our listeners besides, set the pipe and hit subscribe. What I want to go back to how you got that opportunity to coach volleyball is we talk about it all the time in the sense of the grind of getting out and training and getting that extra serve or, getting that extra, pass or dig or serve. You took the time for 2 years to go learn more about your craft to better yourself. And by doing that, you got an opportunity to become a coach, even though you weren't a coach, through all of that, through that hard work, which is, as you said, you learned a lot from UCI, which we're going to learn way more with what you're saying. It catapulted you to being a coach at UCLA, to being a part of the Olympics. It's important for me to just tell people that you have to give everything you have and to work hard into something you love. And you did it. And you did extra, right? You did just doing what it takes doesn't work anymore. You have to do extra to become, extraordinary. And you've done that. So congratulations to you for putting those 2 years in, but getting the opportunity to do all this and coach. So what a great story. Keep going. So I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well,
I didn't to interject. No, that's an important to me, at least.
Yeah. Thanks, Coley. I think one of the things I would add to what you just said is, as a young person, I always wanted to be a coach. And that was the reality. I played volleyball, basketball, softball, soccer. I did track and field. When I was very young, I had some health issues that kept me out of sports. And so when you have something traumatic that takes the normal living away from you. At a very young age, I developed a deep appreciation for movement. And when I got to move again, I smiled. When I got to play something, I just always, I never took it for granted. And so when I couldn't play sports anymore, the next logical thing in my mind when I was in high school was now I want to coach. And I always thought I'd be a Division I softball coach. I played softball in college. So one of the things that my dad used to tell me when I was in college playing ball is, hey, if someday you want to coach, then you got to coach now. And that means you got to think like a coach. You got to study the game like a coach. You got to, you don't have to wait to be a coach to begin studying that craft. And that took me on a circuitous route into the field of sports psychology. And so, in my first few years at Fullerton, if I were going to be completely honest, I didn't end up a coach. I ended up a professor. And when I went to classes and I stood in front of a sea of 120 students in a room, and I was doing everything I could to engage their attention and make it interesting and give them something they could take and apply to whatever field they were going to go into. And I often found myself walking out of the room feeling empty because no matter how much I put on a show, it felt like I was looking at a sea of blank stares. And I can very vividly remember early in my career at Cal State Fullerton, I asked a question in one of the classes. I said, could anybody tell me about a time when you felt confident? And nobody answered the question. And I said, okay, how about a time when you felt really motivated? I was trying to get some dialogue going in the classroom, and they all just sat there because it would be easier for me to continue the entertainment than for them to engage. In that moment, I stopped the class and I said, how about this? Would anybody like to hear a story? And they all raised their hands, every single one of them. And so I basically told them the story of my journey to how I got there. And I said, I always wanted to be a coach. At the end of the story, I said, I always wanted to be a coach. And today confirmed to me why I made a mistake. I went 13 straight years of college. And became a professor. I didn't become a coach, but I wanted to be a coach because I wanted to go into a gym or out on a field. And if I was going to put in all this energy and effort, then I wanted to do it with people who want to be the best at whatever it is they're doing. They want this information. They want to raise their hand. They want to contribute. They want to figure out what next little detail they could do to become the best that they're going to be at whatever it is they're doing. That's what motivates me. And I'm telling them this story, no joke, with a tear running down my face, because I'm not a coach. I'm a professor. But all those years, those 13 years of college and all the things that I did, was about trying to understand coaching from a practical and a research perspective. And like you said, Coley, a minute ago, I didn't have to go to this group of professors, studying research methodologies. I went so that I could be better at what I was studying and coaching. And when John called me that day, and then I went to the boiler room and I met with the guys, and then they said they all wanted to win a national championship, and I got home and he called me back and he said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Now you still want me. They don't want me, but they're on the same page. This group is ready to go. They're on a mission." And he talked me into it. I mean, the story is really that I always felt like I was meant to coach, and this opportunity came back to me. It came back around to me, and while I wasn't a volleyball coach,
you were still a coach. That's what's rad about it.
It's a different kind of coach, right?
Coach,
you have, a lot of volleyball coaches, or any coach, can teach the technical and the tactical systems of the game. And this is really coaching the mental side of the game, coaching your focus, coaching, where does your confidence come from? It's so huge in any sport. Yeah.
In regards to what you said, I don't want to see them cut like the cloth like you are, but a lot of us are, and our friends are, and it's a different era these days. So what you just said about you wanting to be the best, you wanted to teach people that wanted to be the best. We all played in that environment, and that's how we played. I know these guys we played, and we wanted to be that. We, played against John growing up. Do you think that's innate in kids these days? Is it teachable? So a little bit of both. Is it just, are you born with it? Like, like LeBron and Kobe and MJ and, Martina Navratilova, and I could go on, like, are those folks born with that? We know they just wanted to be the greatest since they were little from every story. Can you teach that in today's athlete, do you think?
That's a really great question. And there's so many research studies examining whether our personalities and behaviors come from nature, those genetics that we inherit, or does it come from the nurture process? And, and I'm just going to give my opinion. I mean, I do think 40%, I would say less, but a good portion of who we become is genetic in a way, especially when we're talking about athletics, because there is a huge physical component to that. Your athleticism in general, your awareness, your ability to process information at a high speed. When I think of a middle blocker, and your just visual acuity system. And so a large portion of it, and I'm going to go 40%, is nature, and 60% is nurture. And I just think sometimes you could have two very athletic and competitive parents who have a pretty calm and not competitive child. And that's just so surprising. Where did this come from? And there could be 1,000 different explanations for where that comes from. But that happens. And so I do think it is a combination of the both. But I think if we just talk about that upper echelon of athlete who are competitive, then I think the nurture is the most important side, the teaching of that mental game, because then it's about how they frame their experiences. I just told this story the other day, but I developed a good friendship with Lisa Fernandez, UCLA softball coach.
Softball.
And she's one of the most competitive people I know. Every time we get around each other, I just love it, because it's an outlier in terms of the level of dedication, the level of mental discipline, and the way that she frames things. And I'm going to share this story, and I know I've told it before, so she probably won't mind. But when I was first getting to know her, she said when she was a young girl, she was playing basketball in her yard, and she went to shoot a 3-pointer and the ball missed. So she went, oh, foul. No one's out there watching her. No one's out there. But she mentally protected she preserved the worth by saying, you know what, I'm not a bad shooter. Something happened here. I got fouled. Then she said, it wasn't me. Then she proceeded to go to the free throw line. And she said, if I would miss that first free throw, I'd say, oh, line violation. And then she said, I'd take the next one and then keep working toward experiencing success. So even in the face of failure, it's how we interpret and frame that. And what I think is so many young people now are quick to be so self-deprecating, to be so self-critical, to immediately go towards, one miss that 3-pointer and I'm trash.
Yeah.
A real competitor doesn't go straight to I'm trash.
Right.
So
a
what
real
do you do?
competitor, they do it again. They do it again. You're striving for excellence. And in that journey, you are going to have many, many, many failures. And the real true competitor does not get caught up. They don't evaluate their self-worth on these mini failures. They can hang in there for the long term. Like, hey, I might not be getting what I want now, but I'm going to get there at some point if I continue down this road. And I think our challenge right now with youth sport and the way that it's organized and
I can't wait to do this.
Yeah, I know. You don't want to get me into youth sport, but
Yeah,
the way that it's organized.
We've been talking about it a lot. Yeah.
With outcomes and, even the idea that we've gotten away from the idea that it's really about, this is our team and we stay together. How can we have this mentality when we bring in these MVP player for the weekend? And now the player who was my teammate, who I care about and respect, is benched. And how do I feel good about that as a person? We're just disposable. No, you win it. What happened to you? Win and you lose together. You develop and you grow together. You stick together. You can't just quit or move teams when the first thing doesn't go right.
Yeah.
And I think
go ahead. I'm sorry.
We've just gotten into such a disposable mindset as opposed to a developmental mindset.
Well, you have to learn from your mistakes, right? And you're not going to be a perfect athlete every time. I think it was Michael Jordan. I don't know the exact statistics.
I was close, by the way.
But Coley never made a mistake hardly at all because you had a fast arm swing. But even Michael Jordan said he failed more times than he was successful. But he learned from those mistakes and became one of the most successful basketball players of all time. I think you have to do that mentally, right?
I think we would love to have you on another episode just to talk youth sports, because I think I was actually talking to a basketball guy the other day who I was actually going to bring on, and I forgot my son had a basketball game, just because he talks about everything from holding kids back to the business this is. And the thing that I don't like about it, that I loved to compete. I loved it. I missed it. I love to win, and I hated to lose. When you play 5 games in a weekend and you're 12, and on Saturday you lose both, and then on Sunday you get up at 8 and you win, and all of a sudden you're in the semifinals, and then on Sunday you win your trophy and we're all graded, but you didn't even really pay attention to the first game that you lost. You should be. You didn't learn from it. No one cares about it. It's just, let's go. And so there's no learning. There's no accepting and learning from that failure, because you're just right back into it. No one cares. And I don't like that they do that. I think they should play 1 tournament a month, maybe play 3 games, basketball, volleyball, same thing, 3 matches, 4 matches a maybe a week, a month, and just train and get better. And you still got to play. That's why you're there, right? You're practicing so you can play. But I think youth sports has gone over the deep end on a lot of things, and that's definitely one of them. The true trying to teach and learn and grow is gone, and it's about money and changing teams and not teaching what you just mentioned about teamwork and fighting through things and finding that way. And so hopefully it changes. I mean, I'm hopeful, but.
Well, and I think we have to learn, young people have to learn how to cope with an imperfect environment. So instead of driving 3 hours after school so that the child has the perfect environment with the better coach and the playing time, we need to play local. We need to commit to, we don't need to, 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds don't need to fly across the country to play a sport that, they could play right there in their backyard. And I just think parents are being exploited. I think kids are being abused, unfortunately. And I don't mean necessarily direct abuse, but the way that we're formatting and executing youth sports in this professional manner is not developmentally appropriate, unfortunately. And I think if we need to somehow band parents together and let go of the ideas of college scholarships and professional playing contracts down the line for the health and well-being of young people. This needs to be about fun. This needs to be about development. And we're not always going to have the perfect coach. But when the four of us were growing up, they were all volunteer coaches.
Yeah. I call it rec sports is what I
rec sports, and you accepted.
Yep.
And you accepted the imperfection because that person was leaving their job that they did all day and volunteering their time to come out there and do something that maybe other parents weren't capable of doing. And so we accepted that. Were the situations perfect? No, but we could learn from the imperfection. We could go home and have conversations. Well, the coach told me this today, and now I don't know, and then, hey, you got to deal with it by yourself. Be a big person. You have to go ask them. You lost your starting role. What do you need to do to get back into that? You didn't just switch teams or, have your parent go talk to them or send an email or write something publicly or whatever, put them on blast on social media or whatever that might be. I think we have to almost restore the innocent human spirit. Like,
how do we
really
do that?
We're here for the right reasons. We're all here for the right reasons.
And I agree with you. And maybe John's but John's USA approach to bringing the whole youth movement to have that environment. We haven't talked to him. I'd love to hear that, but how do we do that? Because you said it eloquently. That's why you have a PhD and I stayed at Cal State Northridge for 22 years to get my one degree, but it's the truth. And I've tried to say it in different ways. And I'm fortunate enough, I have two children. One already played college sports, played at UCLA, played in the Final Four in basketball. My other one's a senior and he's going to go play basketball at Washington State. So I've been through it all. But I was an over-aggressive parent at the beginning because I was an elite athlete and I thought I needed to do this. And I've learned so much since then about the what you just talked about, the peace of mind of these children. And like when you're 12 years old and you're 13, I don't care if you're 15, what these kids do is remarkable to me, in especially at the high level, whatever sport it is. I don't care if it's softball, if it's basketball, it's volleyball, tennis. If you're in the elite thing and you're traveling all over the country. But like you said, we're losing that in our youth, and the phones are already bad enough. And that's a whole different topic that it's hard to ever get away from children or adults, is to change that back to having fun, being competitive, but having fun and making it about that and not about everyone trying to get a piece of the pie and get yourself a scholarship or trying to get paid, and which is great if you can, but it really is always, and it will always be a select few that get that. And people are sold a delusion, and these parents go through so much, and these kids go through so much, and they lose so much. I don't know. I guess my question, I went around kind of what you said, but how do we How do we change that in America for youth sports? Can we get USA basketball, USA volleyball? They can't really do it for football. They do flag football and stuff, which is going to be very big here very soon too, probably overboard as well. How do we change that in the culture? Or how do we start to change it?
It's such a huge undertaking and probably really complex to fix it across the country. But I think some of the things you said there with getting some of the primary organizations together to have a systematic approach to sport implementation, to have differing, somehow minimizing the travel that families are doing. And then one of the things I think is that, in most professions where you're making a decent salary, because now youth coaches are getting paid, right? They're running clubs and these types of things. And I'm okay with that. That's because it is a full-time job, especially if you do it right. But then there have to be standards of implementation. And just like we have a food inspector that goes to a restaurant, we need drop-in. Let's make sure these coaches are doing it right. Let's make sure it's developmentally appropriate. Let's have a systematic approach to the way that we're coaching each sport at the different levels. And let's get the governing bodies and the nonprofits together to create this. And I think, if we could get some government funding, some huge government funding to get a nonprofit on board to start something like this, where there are levels of just evaluation to ensure for the safety and the development of the kids, and for them to also provide that parent education, which should be rolled out universally as well. So across sports, across levels, at this level, the parent education is this, and the level of involvement of the parents are well intended. I mean, they want the best for their children. They want it to be a positive experience. Let's help them understand what that means. What is their role in that, and roll that out at every level from every organization. And I just think, some way to pull together unified efforts would start to move the needle. I don't know how much it would change. It's so ingrained. It's a cultural shift. It's a huge cultural shift. But I think, there are silos of people working really hard on shifting it. But I think coming together somehow would be a good start.
I mean, maybe somehow over the LA Olympics, since it's not too far from here, is to build some kind of grassroots change, for kindness, for enjoying the sport. Like, I mean, because you're around volleyball now more, that if you were to go like to a 12 and under girls volleyball tournament in Arizona at one of the big facilities there, and you saw 30 courts, like over on 26 through 30, like they probably don't need to be spending, $1,500 a month and traveling from Arizona to all over when they're 12 on court 28. Like, they're probably, listen, and I don't want to take the dream away from people, because there are folks from court 28 that make it. They're very few and far between, especially at 12. This isn't 6 or 7. And it's like, I just feel like now, again, I've always said this before, if you did it for what I did it for, was like, hey, I want my kids to be on a team. I want them to be with friends. I want them to go to Vegas once a year and then drive around Southern California to play basketball every other weekend and go to practice a couple days a week. I'll pay for that because of those reasons my wife and I had. And I hoped that other stuff would happen. But that's why I did it. Most people don't do it for that. So if you're going to go spend all that money for your 12-year-old daughter playing on court 28, that's never going to play college volleyball. Like, we all know, like, she's just not going to do it. If this is her joy and she's having the best time of your life and you can afford it, awesome. Most people aren't there. They're not having the best time of their life. And most people can't afford that on top of it with it goes. So what about if we just had clinics and we had youth sports and we had down at the park and recs that I grew up with, where I just played soccer and baseball and basketball all at the park. And we were all pretty good athletes and stuff, but like, it's never going to go back to that, but it needs to come a little bit closer in between, because I think it's beyond overboard and it's hurting our youth and it's taking people away from sports, which is a bummer. And because we need
Mm-hmm.
We need kids to play. It's such a great life experience with everything you do. It doesn't matter what sport it is.
Absolutely. And I think if we could build this culture within the school districts and the school systems, we can reach parents in that way as well. If it's not through the organizations, then maybe through the school systems. The other thing about those little diamonds that emerge in all of the sports is that you don't actually need to travel across the country to be found if you're that good.
Yeah.
They will know.
Especially
they
nowadays.
Will see you.
Yeah, ask Sully.
They will see you and you will be known. And so, and I know in softball, for example, they feel like they have to go to the, there's different names for the tournaments, the showcases, the qualifiers.
Yeah.
That's right. They need the college coaches to be there. And if you're at, a little league game or something of a lower level, then all the college coaches aren't there. And it just, if that's why you're playing, then my experience has been working at UC Irvine and UCLA with a lot of different sports has been that the primary goal for that child, whether it comes from the child themselves or the parents or just the culture that we're living in, is to get that college scholarship and now the NIL deal and all those things. If that is the primary goal, then their freshman year in college, they achieve the goal. You got it. You're there. I got the scholarship. I'm a full ride. I'm at UCLA. Do you know how many athletes I met with at UCLA who came in their sophomore year? And when they sat down, the first question they said they're not having a good time and they're struggling and all these things are happening and they're in a slump. And I said, and if I ask the first question, which is, tell me why you play, do you know what 95% of them say? I don't know.
Wow.
And the reason they don't know as a sophomore is because they played to get the scholarship. And now that they have it, the reason for playing is gone. They don't have the intrinsic desire to compete. And the other thing that happens is when you go to these showcase tournaments, I went to a softball tournament. I couldn't believe it because I've been a little bit out of youth sport for a while. But I watched a hitter end the inning on a strikeout. And a college coach went down to the coach of the team and said, like to see that hitter bat again, first at bat of the next inning. And that person starts the next inning. So you're not actually seeing how the kids are capable of handling pressure because they're not in pressure.
Yeah.
They're only playing for now we're going to go hit again. And now we're going to see again. And you're not playing a game where it's the bottom of the seventh, 2 outs, and you're up to bat and your team's down by 1 and you got to hit that runner in from second base. I want to see them. I want to see young people learn how to cope with the natural pressures of sport and not the unnatural pressures that we place on them from scholarships and NILs and expectations and all these external and social media and how they have to advertise and market themselves. I mean, they lose a complete sense of who they are as a person. That's the other thing I see all the time is, hey, just because you play, they're so hard on themselves and so negative because they played a bad volleyball match.
Yeah.
And that's because their self-evaluation is tied to the performance in the social media and what's being written about them and what's being said about them. And at the end of the day, I think to myself, hey, did you go home and look in the mirror and say, what makes a good person? What makes a person good enough in life? And, all of us have our own value system. And my value system is, hey, did I give my best effort? Was I kind to other people to the best I could? Sometimes I make a mistake or I make a joke and it didn't land correctly or whatever, but I had positive intentions in my kindness and I gave my best effort and I was grateful. That's me. Those are my 3 values. And if I look in the mirror and I did that day, that's the best I could do. I have something to feel good about, regardless if I lost a semifinal match at the Olympic Games, which is a tough loss to swallow. I mean, that's really hard, but gosh, what all these wonderful humans have done that have nothing to do with the sport of volleyball, that nobody talks about in social media, that know all the really sweet gestures they make to others, all the times they sign an autograph, all the times they just, I think about the guys on the national team. We have such a great group of human beings.
Agreed.
They are a great group of human beings. They happen to play volleyball.
Right.
So we're gonna either celebrate them or judge them and crush them based on whether they hit the ball in or out at the end of a match. Like it's a really, really hard to watch from the inside to see that. And here's the other thing: we haven't prepared young athletes to cope with pressure and then judge them when they actually get in real pressure. And you're at the Olympic Games and you have millions of viewers, and now we're going to judge them for not being perfect in that moment when we haven't taught them how to handle pressure. We've created a youth sport situation where we haven't trained that at all. We spend all our time training physical tactical systems and that kind of thing. And then we're judging them because they didn't perform well under pressure. That's just not fair. It's a totally unfair approach to how we're treating young people. And that's where I was saying it's abusive. That's abusive.
Yeah, agreed. I think when you said about the coaches, I think that's where the NCAA could probably make a difference. And I don't know how you do it so everyone can be seen a little bit more. It's not as it is easy with social media and streaming, but like when you go to those showcases and you're playing in those, it's hard not to want to play in those when there's 8 Division I, like the best coaches from, for my kids, it's hoops. And like back in the day, it's like Krzyzewski's there and Calipari's there. And it's like, my kid's 17 and he's playing in front of those guys. Like, and you're telling people and everyone wants that. But like you said, it creates this stress for most. Not everyone could handle it. And it's a big deal. And it's just another basketball game. And it's like, if they could get rid of that, that would be the first start, I think. Not rid of it. Obviously they need to recruit, but like those environments, I think, put a tough situation for a lot of children.
Hey, Barry, you had a question?
Well, I have a couple questions, but let's go. Let's say as a coach, you have a player who's the best player on the team, okay, but he's got the worst attitude. He doesn't go hard in practice. And we go back to those guys that all want to win the national championship, all want to win league or whatever, right? And you're not going to win without him. What do you tell the coaches? Maybe you even work with the player himself. What do you tell him? Because obviously it's not going to happen without him or her. How do you deal with a situation like that?
If your best player has a bad attitude, you have a bad culture.
Yeah.
So what I would say is you're probably not going to win without him. You're probably not going to win with him. You're not going to win with him. So if you are truly there for the right reasons and you are there to develop young people mentally and physically and socially and emotionally and all of those, then what you do is you coach that young person to have you want them to be the best player with the best attitude, and you continue to coach them the best you can, right? Because sometimes you can't change that. You can't change them.
Okay.
And if they don't exhibit the behaviors that reflect a good attitude, then you don't play them, because if you play them, you're endorsing a bad attitude and now you have bad culture. So if you're willing to give up the culture of your team to play a bad attitude, then it's going to be a very challenging experience for everyone. It's not going to be a positive experience. And so it really comes down to the value system of the coach and what they're willing to put up with. And personally, I think that you try to really hard to teach and coach the young person who has the bad attitude, and then you give them opportunities. Hey, you're hanging your head. You're talking negatively to your teammates. You're undermining someone's confidence. Here's how you did it. Here's what I expect you to do. I'm going to give you one more chance to do that. If you can't do it, you're going to come out, watch the game. You got to take them out. And if you don't take them out, you lose your credibility.
Sure.
You lose your you lose your culture. You lose your credibility as a coach. And so for me, that's a non-negotiable. It's
Yeah.
non-negotiable. Yeah.
And you would say some of that same thing to the player himself. Like, what would you say to the player? Like, hey, coach is saying, you know what, you're good, but you're a cancer on this team.
Yeah. I probably wouldn't say you're a cancer on the team. I would probably frame it in the sense of you have such an opportunity here to influence your teammates and the outcome of what we're capable of achieving in a positive way. And everybody looks up to you and looks to you. And when you do those things, this is how it affects them. This is how, and we're not getting the result we want because you are, whether you like it or not, our leader. When you're the best player on the team, you provide a form of leadership, whether you like it or not.
By example or not.
Whether you like it or not.
You can't play positively. I mean, and I'm not trying to argue or whatever, but like some of the best players have a little chip on their shoulder.
Yeah, but they're not.
I love that.
Of course they do, Bear, but it's different than what you're
Being
describing.
Toxic.
Like it's like, and the ones that were toxic, that were the best players, don't play anymore. Right. And we could name a few, I'm not going to on here, but that played in our generation that were probably maybe better than everybody. Right.
Yeah.
But didn't get to play anymore for those reasons and stuff. So,
but Bear, I'll answer your question. Coley, one more thing to Bear. At the youth level, we got to coach them up and take them out. We can't allow it at the youth level, because then once we get to the elite level, there's no changing that. That's it's been so practiced, the negative attitude, the negative self-talk, the getting on teams. It's been so trained into that athlete. And because if they're physically more talented, they'll say, hey, it's gotten me this far, so it works, right? It works. Sure. So at the youth level, we've got to try our best to fix those behaviors. If we inherit someone at the elite level, we're probably not going to, we might be able to move the needle a little bit, but we're not going to change them as a person. They've gotten to where they are at a high level with that. So then we got to work, we have to do our best to help shift that mentality, to help illuminate how it affects the team. And then we have to have the team say, in order to perform well in those conditions, let's say, Bear, you're the guy. We have to know you well enough and understand you as a person to know, hey, this is who he is and this is how he plays the game. We're not going to let it affect us. We're not going to be taken out of our game because of this. We're not, and that's really hard to do. That's really difficult, but we have to get to hey, we're going to bring this player in and we're going to come here a little bit to meet in the middle, because that's where we are for this team. If we're at that point at the elite level, you do want to put your best players on the court, right?
Absolutely.
You want to do that. So, at that level, we have to make some compromises. If the players' behaviors are so egregious such that it undermines the performance of the team at that level, then you have a problem. You're not going to be successful. You're not.
Either way,
but either way, you're
on the
not
court
going to
or
be
not
successful.
on the court.
Yeah. So I think it's a fine line, and I think at the youth level, we need to be strong in correcting the behaviors and correcting the attitude. And at the elite levels, we have to do our best to compromise, to understand each other, to be transparent, to be communicative, to understand we're all there for the same thing and we want to win. We do that. We've come from different backgrounds. We might do that in different ways. We need to be accepting of that. We need to, do the best we can to exhibit a standard of behavior. We talk about that on the national team a lot. The standard of behavior is when you cross the line, this is the way we behave. This is the way we communicate. This is the way we compete. We want to get to that level. Do we always do that? No, because we're humans. We have emotional systems. We have imperfections, but we're striving for that. We're striving to be the best team we can possibly be in the moments that matter the most, in those finals.
So Bear, I would have the player, whoever you're talking about, should just listen to this pod for sure afterwards. And no, I'm being honest.
Or the coach.
No, through the years, I've had players like that, and I know other coaches have had those situations, and it's like you said, it's a thin line and it's a touchy situation, and I just wanted to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah. Hey, Andrea, how many coaches out there need you?
I don't know.
Not you specifically, but you know what I mean? Like
this type of,
but you.
Yeah.
I mean, I could bring it, I can do a shotgun approach and say a little bit wider in terms of the department. Should every department have you, right? Because I have run into plenty of coaches that don't have any empathy. They don't have any, they're brutal.
Of course.
It's not a good environment for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And why I'm singling, your profession and you out is I specifically remember when we interviewed John Hawks and he's like, I brought you up. And he goes, I'm not too sure, like Spera, she wasn't for Spera first, and then the team, and to me, that I had a lot of respect for John Spera if that's the case, because for a guy at that level to win national championships at two different universities, become the USA men's head coach, and then where he is today, but where he is today is like that's pretty humble of him to know that there is something that he was lacking, I guess, or he wanted to get better at. Where do you see that at a collegiate level? Do you see it at a coaching level? Do you see that at a department level? Because I think all three of us on here, the guys, would say it's absolutely needed.
First of all, in regards to John, I would say at an extremely humble level. You have a female non-volleyball coach coming in her first year and telling you what to do and what not to do, in a lot of cases, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing here? Can you explain, the rationale behind that? And he explains it. And then, I might say, well, I think it's causing this. Maybe we should do it this way. What do you think? Right. And to John's credit, and not all, I can't say this for all coaches, but to his credit, he always listened. He always listened to that. And what I think, I don't know what the players would say. It would be fun to do this with a group of the players, and it would be fun to do this with John. But when he first hired me, he said, the players get coached all the time and they're receiving feedback. That's what I need from you. I need you to be direct with me and honest with me. And I think the reason I was able to do that with him, and I think, to be honest, I think I was the bearer of the hardest news to him. I was the most critical of him out of everyone. I was the one who came in and said, you're doing it like this and you're ruining the team and you need to change. And
That's awesome.
And it was always very hard, but I was able to do that because I think John and I always came from the place of, I am looking out for your best interest.
Sure.
I am here for you and the team. And if you are doing something that is hurting this team or undermining a player's confidence, then it is my responsibility. You hired me for this, to bring this to your attention. And what I would give him credit for is he never was defensive about I shouldn't say never. I'm going to laugh if he watches this because he's going to go, oh, I came at you. But actually what would happen is I'd bring up something and he'd say, oh, Bex, it's this, it's this, it's this. And then the following day he'd say, okay, what are we doing? He always come back after we thought. So
process it.
He processed it. But I think you have to, if you're going to have someone like me from a coaching perspective, it has to be someone you 100% trust. And I think because John and I had that and established that level of a relationship, I was able and willing to deliver information to him. And now I'm getting the opportunity to work with Karch, with the national team. And Karch is the same way, very open, very detail driven. But I mean, I'm coming, in my original conversations with Karch, I said, I don't know you. I don't have the same relationship with you that I have with John, But in working with him, I was often the bearer of the worst information for him.
Right.
I'm going to be that person for you. I'm going to take a chance. And if that means you want to fire me, that's okay. I'm okay. But he's been wonderful as well. And to see these coaches who've achieved such a high level of success, be so humble and be so open to someone who's, essentially an outsider, commenting on what's happening in the world that you've dedicated your entire life to. And that's really a credit to those two guys, but and other coaches that I've worked with. But I think you have to have the trust, because if you don't trust, you're not going to take that information. You have to know that that person's intentions are for the good of the team. You have to know that, I walk a fine line all the time between the players and the coaching staff, because I want the guys to know I'm working for you. I'm going to bring this information back for your best interest. And if they don't want information to go back, it doesn't go back. And so, but I think that's a really delicate place to be all the time. And I think that in my field, it's hard to know if people are selling sports psychology or if they're really there to help people get from where they are to where they want to be. And I have to be honest with you, I've just never been selling. I'm not trying to do this job.
Yeah.
If someone said to me tomorrow, we're not taking you for the next 3 years or to LA 28, I'd probably be so relieved. I don't want to say that out loud, but no, just in the sense of, I'm never going to turn down, helping someone who's wanting to be the best that they can be. But I'm not trying to be with professional athletes. I'm not trying to go to the Olympic Games. I don't, when young people say they want to get into sports psychology, I say, what do you want to do? And they say, oh, I want to work in the NBA. I want to work with professional athletes. When I hear a young person says, I want to help people be the best they can be, that person's probably going to make it. But the person who comes in and they're selling their personality inventories and they're going to, bring your team to a national championship and you're going to win more and you're going to do, we're not that important. We're not that.
They become a celebrity sports psychologist or sports performance rather than the legit that has your best interest
doing it for the wrong reason.
We can't make those promises. If once someone's making those promises, that's like a coach going in front of their team and promising a winning season. No, we're not that important. We're one, we contribute, but if we're doing our job really well, no one knows we're doing it. Right. No one knows no one knows.
It's a great point.
Hey, guys, I'm going to bring up something that we brought up a lot was the Alan Knipe degree, right?
Yes.
And I can't even imagine not bringing this up. So Alan Knipe, teammate of Bear in Mind, as well as Coley after college, he's head coach at Long Beach State. He brought up when we interviewed him twice, and he brought up having a degree for being an athlete. That's your degree. Like if you go to dance or if you go to, you're in band or you're music, jazz or whatever.
Psychology, you're focusing on that.
Right. And so the things that you brought up and all the pressures of marketing and NIL and, and we bring up sports psychology, performance, and then the business degree, and business courses and economics and everything that goes into being an athlete. I want to know your take on that. I know it's just kind of a surface level discussion right now, but the stuff that you brought up, it was just, I don't know if you guys realize it, boys, but it was like check, check, a part of that degree. Because it's becoming a business and the social media, the branding, like you said, and for people to try to do it on their own. That's just like you. It's just trying to do, being the best person you can be and sports performance and the mentality and the different approaches. Kids can't do that on their own. Right. So what would you think about developing or having
a curriculum?
A curriculum like that. That's for the most part, 70, 75, if not 90% already at the university. It's already at the university,
Right.
Except for the social media, I would imagine. But yeah, what would you think about that? Because your courses would be a part of that.
I love it.
Yeah, we thought it was
I
brilliant.
think it's great.
I was like, wow, like if you're like, my kid's going to be going in the NIL era, like I'd love him to focus on finance and what to do with your money. And then also, like he said, social media brands and psychology and sports stuff, because that would also, no matter what you decide to do, not everyone's going to be a pro, as you know, it's very even smaller than the college, but all of that stuff you're going to learn. And it's a big part of it, not just your brand, but how to be in business. Listen, if you want to go be a doctor, or you want to go be making movies, you're going to go to film school, or you're going to go, into that. Great. But as athletes, I know a lot of them, including me, like, what do you want to, what do you want your major to be? Well, like, sociology, or I'm just going to go with this.
No sociology, Coley.
Generally focused. There are many, but I'm saying, I think
comms.
Comms.
I thought it was brilliant.
Criminal justice.
I love it. I think Alan Knipe's got a great idea. I think that it wouldn't be hard to actually implement that. They could be a kinesiology, concentration, sport performance.
Yeah.
That could have a combination, a meta degree where they had a combination of, like you said, business, social media, finance, and then you can
even communication,
exercise physiology, understand your body. They could take strength and conditioning. They could take the technical and tactical systems of their sport, public speaking. It would be incredible.
Everything.
I think it would be incredible.
I think it started in the state schools, like Sac State, Cal State, Virginia, Long Beach Station.
Long Beach Station.
I think we could start it. Here's what I actually think. I think we could start it in the CSUs.
Yeah.
And if we ran it as some kind of a joint, it could be online.
Yeah.
If it was a joint online, and certain courses were on the ground, obviously, like their strength and conditioning would be on the ground. Their certain ones would be, maybe exercise physiology would be on the ground. And then these other ones could be universal. I think it could be a really neat way to handle some of the, also just what goes on with the portal, and when athletes are transferring to different schools now, and the majors are accepting or not accepting different coursework, and almost kind of coming up with a universal
educational
sport performance, or have a name but because we already have similar degrees, it would just be a matter of packaging. We could package it next year.
I would love to.
Something like that. Yeah, you could do it within your you could do it within your kinesiology programs.
For sure.
They would just take, or it could be a BS in sport management, but the concentration is in performance. I think it would be phenomenal.
Law degree for contracts, and we just have a class about contracts, learning about that.
I think you should. I agree. All right, so let's put that together, and
I think we should.
We're down.
So I know we've been on here a long time, but I have a question for you, like for a little tidbit here. You're talking to 10-year-old girls and 10-year-old boys playing volleyball. What are 2 or 3 things at that age that they can learn mentally to help them to perform better?
One of my favorite and most easiest things to remember is you're not striving for an outcome. You're striving for best attitude, best effort, best teammate. And when I say best attitude, it's about an attitude is how you think, how you feel, and how you behave. So your best attitude is how you carry yourself. Are you head up, chest out, shoulders back? Are you making eye contact? Are you thinking and talking positively to yourself? Or all those things. That best attitude. Best effort is physical effort. So you're diving for balls and you're doing that. But the one that we miss all the time is focused effort. The number of times I go and watch a volleyball practice and they are just boop, boop, serving balls like they're hitting balls off a tee. That is the most mindless practice one could ever imagine. You got to go back there. If you take 20 serves in practice, but they're mindful, you did your full routine, you took a breath, you dialed your eyes, and you really took the time to do a mindful serve, you would over time, you might not get the short-term results that you want, but over time, be a better server than taking those 100 serves that were completely mindless and not refining your motor system. So best effort is physical and focused effort. And then best teammate. Do you make your teammates feel better about themselves, or do you make them feel worse? Do you give energy to your team, or do you take energy to your?
That's kind of what I was talking about earlier. With that player. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, are you? And then at the end of, every single play, you might have lost a point or you might have won the point, but you should be evaluating yourself on, was I best attitude, best effort, best teammate? Because that's like going in the mirror at night and saying, hey, did I live my values today? Yeah. Because if the answer to that question is yes, then you should never feel bad about yourself. Mm-hmm. You should never. I don't care if you miss a serve. You think 2 months down the road that serve matters? Nope. If we're not going to care about it later, we shouldn't care about it now. But if you had a bad attitude and you hurt people on your team, you're going to carry that. You're going to feel guilty. You're going to feel bad because that was something within your control that you didn't have to, you didn't mean to do it. You did it. And now you affected everybody. And now you have damage control in your relationships. But a missed serve into the net, an error on hitting it out of bounds, or you read the block wrong. Who cares? So what? Now get on to the next thing. So what? Get on to the next one. And I think at the end of the day, toughness isn't playing well. I really believe in toughness. I don't care what we call it. We can call it resilience. We can call it toughness. It's the thing that you all had when you played, and it was developed maybe in different ways back then, but toughness is not performing well in perfect conditions. Everybody does that. Oh, the conditions were perfect. I felt good. I slept good. My coach never started me every single game. And so I never lost my confidence. My teammates think I'm the best, And so playing well in perfect conditions is not special. Toughness and resilience is
grit.
Performing the best you can over and over again when things aren't good, when you are making errors, being tough is playing forward when it's imperfect. Hey, you miss a serve on match point, and now we got to get into the next match. Once you take that negative emotion and start the next set, feeling bad about what happened in the past, that's not toughness. That's carrying the past into your present moment. And so you're not doing best effort because your focused effort is not in the moment about how you're going to win this next point. It's about what happened in the past, and really teaching people how to play forward, move forward. Who cares? Yeah. We're all going to make mistakes. Not a single person in professional sport has done their sport perfectly. Why would we be so dang hard on ourselves for an imperfection? Yeah. Nobody has done it perfectly. But the good ones don't ruminate on those imperfect things. They figure out a way to fix them, to get better. And if you, for example, miss a serve and your initial response to that serve is, oh, shoot, I'm trash. Oh, I'm bad. I'm this. Then your mind in that moment didn't have the time or the clarity to process what actually went wrong in the serve to fix it on the next repetition. You just went straight into your emotional system. Well, emotional systems don't help us perform better. Refining the parameters of our physical movements and our attitude and that kind of thing is what's going to make us perform better. So instead of judging the outcome, reevaluate. Hey, did I do my full routine? Was I completely focused on the target? Did I make good contact? Did I adjust? Hey, maybe I tossed the ball a little bit to my right, a little bit to my left. Did I adjust to that? What actually happened? So instead of judging yourself, it's evaluating what occurred and refining it for the next one. Who cares if it was a make or a miss? Yeah. Improve, play forward, learn forward. do the next repetition. And it's so easy for me to sit here and say these words, but when we're performing and we're competitors, it's very difficult to implement that. And I'm not saying we don't have an initial response. I mean, I do too. I'm not even a high level competitive athlete. I'm an old mom, right? But when I'm playing ping pong or doing whatever and I miss it, I'm like, oh shoot, okay, I got to get this back. But there's got to be a quick recovery to then say, okay, this is what happened and here's how I can make it better.
Yeah, but
that's why I asked.
This is this kind of stuff though that coaches, staff, players, even at Division I high level, they don't have these tools that hold them accountable or to fix those things to make them reach a higher level. I mean, Coley brought up his kids, and my daughter's in Division I track and volleyball now, and she does see a sports performance, and it helps her a ton. And
that's great.
But there's a lot that don't have those tools. That don't.
I agree.
And it's not. Man, this is all gold, guys.
And that's why I asked earlier about because. I know the boys on my screen here is the things you were just mentioning. That's how I grew up and played. Like I never worried about the next point. I hated losing. I still thought about it, but I didn't focus on it. I was ready for the next one. I'm not saying I was perfect like that, but a lot of us were like that. Different generation. I'm not saying everyone in the 80s that played grew up that way, but that's why I was curious on your thought on that, because I've seen my two boys develop and grow in certain ways. They weren't raised like I was. So that's a different piece in itself. And then they inherently had some stuff, and I think they were able to develop some stuff, and it changed my philosophy on being born with it, that you can actually inherit and also grow with some of it. And so that's why I asked earlier.
Yeah. I think and I think genuine confidence where you can do it comes from failure. It comes from the experience of, I actually wasn't good enough, and I worked and worked and worked and worked, and one day it clicked. I'll never forget it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was not a good basketball player, but when I was in high school, it was my first experiences of playing high school basketball in general, but high school basketball, and I was a freshman on the varsity team. I had no clue what I was doing. Matter of fact, the coach said to me one day, in practice, he said, Andrea, when you set a screen, you come to the top of the key and you go here. So in the game, he said, screen. I went to the top of the key and I stood there, and he's like, you're screening nobody. Yeah, I did exactly what you told me, because I didn't understand the concept of screen. Like my own teammates actually supposed to come off here, right?
That's funny.
But I'll never forget it. No one ever taught me how to shoot or what I should do to shoot. And so I'm sure the technique was mediocre at best. But I remember being in my neighborhood and going down the street, and my neighbors had a basket, and every day I go out there and I would just shoot. And then one day I actually decided, and it's the dumbest thing, but I'm really, really, really going to look at the rim. I am going to see the rim like it's the only thing that exists. And I'm going to do that. And all of a sudden it clicked. And the next thing you know, I'm scoring 20 some points in the game. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, right? But it came from, oh, you're never going to play. You're out there for defense. That's your job. You're out there for defense. And then it was like, wait a minute. Okay, I'm not good enough at this. I'm not good enough at this. I'm not good enough at this. And then, oh my gosh, I figured this out. I got this. So I don't have to have the perfect technique. But if when I pull up and really see that, I'm increasing my probability that ball is going to go through that hoop by a lot of percentage points. And so then that became my focus, and that became what I could do every single time, no matter how good or how bad I was playing. I know that my eyes can find that rim and I could do that. Right. And so that's what my focus was. And I think that's just one example in sport, but we don't get confidence when we're without challenge. We have to fail like that. We have to be not good enough. We have to figure it out and tinker and learn. And then when it clicks for that athlete, then they know they're good inside. It's not because I was moved to a different team and got a better coach. It's not because I'm the best player on the team because I'm playing at a lower level anymore. Hey, it's not because I stayed back a grade and now I'm a whole year older than everybody, but at the college level or at the professional level, that 1 year gap goes away. When those younger kids that weren't a year ahead had to develop the work ethic and had to develop the genuine confidence, and had to develop those things. And so I really think we need challenge. We need young people to take responsibility for, even, I just read an article the other day about basic tasks. Kids need to learn to tie their shoes with shoestrings. Make them learn. Kids need to put their dish at the sink. Make them do that. Pack their backpack. Put it in the car. The article said kids aren't even opening the door anymore to let themselves out in grade school. Parents getting out of the car and opening the door. Open the door. Take your seatbelt on. Put your seatbelt on. Take your seatbelt off.
Right.
These little tasks that, and it's all good intentions, because parents are incredible. They're incredible. We want. I'm a parent myself. We want to do the best thing for it. I have to stop myself. I really have to think, it's easy for me to get up and do that. No, instruct the child on how to do it so they can do it themselves. They need to learn to make decisions. They need to learn how to overcome challenge. And when they do that, they develop a genuine self-worth and a sense of self. And I think to be great at the highest levels, you need a strong sense of self. This is me. This is who I am. And what I do can't phase that. It's not going to hurt that. It might break my spirit because I hate to lose, but it's not going to break my personhood. This is who I am. It's never, and nothing's going to keep me down, because even when my spirit's broken, I'm going to come back, and I'm always going to rise. I'm going to rise again and again. And I'm going to figure out one small detail that I can do to make myself a little bit better. And I just think that's the kind of, we really need to continue to instill that mentality in young people. Wow.
Listen, I mean, I'm just enamored with all the stuff you're saying, because I was always about the mental part of the game, and it's incredible stuff you're saying. And I think it's great that you're doing what you're doing for athletes. Like Sully said, I think more colleges need to do this. I'll be calling the Washington State basketball coaches very soon here. After this, that's where my son's going. But, and one thing I do want to go back to, just a real quick, to give a shout out to John and to Karch. Karch is the greatest volleyball player to ever play the game of volleyball. He's probably earned to be, maybe when it's all said and done, to be one of the top coaches. And that's why, he
100%.
He wants to learn still. He wants to get better. So shout out to you, Karch. Come on here anytime. I'd love to have you, but to always wanting to be better. And hopefully that inspires young coaches and young athletes to know that the head coach of our Olympic team, who is the best to ever do it, is still thriving and thirsting to learn and to get better. That's an important thing, why he's the best, obviously, but why he continues to be the best. And hopefully all of us, including me, can learn from that, to go in and listen to a class for a couple of years when you don't know really why you're there, to learn, to be a better human being. So thanks so much.
We've said that multiple times on this show, is the best coaches out there are the most humble and the most willing to share. I mean, they really are. I mean, every one I've come through, and just like, I mean, and Bear, I've told Barry he's one of the best trainers I've been around, but it's one of those things where you get everybody together and they are willing to share. I mean, or they're like, you know what, Sully, tell me about the middle, and how do you train your middles to do this, right? And same thing with, I mean, we're talking at a way higher level with Karch and Spra, to be able to be humble. That should speak volumes to every one of those coaches that listen to our podcast. If they really have got to sit back and say, I could use this. And so guys, we've had her on for over an hour and 15 minutes. And Andrea, so I have written notes through our whole podcast, and I have more to talk about. So I want to invite you back for sure, because I want to get into the stuff that you did at University of Tennessee when you brought up Pat Summitt. I was like, oh, that's a whole different thing. And then the Olympics and that kind of high level. But guys, and I talk about this, is I'd love to, when you had Al Skates on here, there's no way in the world I would ever talk to him. Marv Dunphy, right? Some of the best of the best. We had, Al Knipe, who's our friend, had him on here. This is this was one of the top podcasts that I've been a part of, boys. And Andrea, I sure do appreciate your time on coming on Set the Pipe. And like I said, I think I can speak for the boys, but we'd love to have you back.
Thanks for having
absolutely.
me. You guys are fun to talk to. So yeah, happy to.
You were lucky. I didn't
back
get to
and
tell
visit
you
with you.
Yeah.
That's the best part. So awesome. You were great. Really, really appreciate it. And again,
no problem.
Like Sully said at the beginning, we're here to tell stories. Yeah, we're here to tell stories and try to evangelize volleyball, but more importantly, just help. And I'm hoping that a lot of people that do listen to our pod that are parents that have young kids,
I love that.
That are athletes, that are like my son, that are elite or close to elite, playing at these next level in college, are all listening to this stuff, because you can learn, and I'm learning. And like I said, I'm just so excited you came on, and I can't wait to have you on again.
I want to hear funny stories.
Guys.
You don't even have to put names. You don't even have to put names. I want to hear funny stories. You've got to have some. You have to have some.
Has Karch even heard of Set the Pipe? I'm curious. Has Karch even heard of this podcast?
Yes, dude. It's like every day he listens to us. What are you talking about?
Are you kidding me?
Since you brought up Karch and we were talking coaching, this summer was the first time that I got to work more closely with Karch. And one more thing I would say about these coaches who have achieved such a high level is one of the things I would say about Karch is he's also one of the most genuine humans in general that I've interacted with, and some of the gestures that he does, and the thoughtfulness that he puts into it, and the reasons for why he does it aren't for those external things. And so I think that also lends itself to the craft. And I just wanted to say that because I think that's also important for coaches. You know, if you're doing it for the money and you're doing it for the winning or the social status or those kind of things, then those are probably the only things you're going to get. But I see these coaches, and I know John was very similar, they're doing it for the right reasons. They're doing it for the absolute and complete love of the game, the love of competition, the love of taking a group of young people and tinkering and molding and to try to get them from here to get them to where they want to be. And I think I would say that was true. And I feel very grateful for myself to have had these experiences, because as much as I'm talking on here from the perspective of someone who has sports psychology training, I've learned so much about the psychology of sports from these coaches and the young men on the national team and the other teams that I work with, and probably any book or living the experiences themselves is oftentimes the best teacher. And so I just thought I'd add that. But thanks, guys. I'm happy to chat again.
So good.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Such great, valuable information. It was awesome.
And Clay was a superstar, by the way.
Yeah.
Just pointing that out.
He was MVP.